Well, we also have here Dr. Herbert Kimura, which is a full professor at our department. He's helping a lot with this project of internationalization, responsible to get some new partners in our group of partner university. I must say thank you very much for Willian and Isabella for joining this project. The project aims to show that to our students that there is more opportunities than they can see around there, the immediate around here in Brasília. And we want to help them to develop these opportunities in terms of international career and academic internship. So this is a extension project organized by Dr. Siegrid Guillaumon, me, and also Dr. Kimura. And I just created yesterday a new group of students we call ambassadors of internationalization. And the opportunity is open for new members of this group. And this session of today was organized by Dr. Siegrid Guillaumon, mainly, but also with help with Jacqueline Gil, me, and Ana Benchimol. All right. So here we have the audience. Isabella, please take the floor.
Good morning to you all. I'm Isabella. I'm a student of license in business here at UNB, and I'm gonna share with you my experience as a UNB student, having done the exchange in the Sciences Po, that is a University of Political Science in France. So I'm gonna start sharing with you right now. That's not the page. That's the page. I don't know if you know, but I cannot see the screen since I'm sharing it. So if you need something, if you have any question, just tell me. I can hear it clearly, but I cannot see it. Starting with my experience at the best university of political sciences in the world, I'm gonna tell you about first the university I studied, second the path, what I did to get there, 3 being there, and 4 coming back here. So the university I studied is known as Sciences Po. The name in French is really big, is actually an institute, but to short it, it's known as Sciences Po. The history of my uni, it was founded in 1872. Sciences Po is among the best universities in humanities and social sciences, and it was ranked at the best university in the world in politics and international students. The university is one of the most internationalized in the planet. That's completely insane, and has more than 47,000 partners at the university and more than 14,000 students on its 7 campuses, and half of them are from abroad, representing more than 150 different nationalities. And its alumni includes 7 presidents, including Emmanuel Macron, the actual president of France, François Hollande, and Nicolas Sarkozy, and 13 French prime ministers, 12 foreign heads of state, and 6 of the CEOs of French largest economies. So it's a really important university, and I had the privilege to study there through UNB, through the process of INT from UNB. And this one I studied at Sciences Po France. It is part of Sciences Po Paris, but it's a different campus. The Reims campus has more or less 2,000 students on site, and more than a half are international. So it's pretty international campus, is a pretty international university. And it's a really nice experience to study with people from all around the world. It's really nice to have the contact with people from different parts of the world, and I learned a lot. And also the university have a lot of double degrees and a lot of partners, including UNB, the university we are. So I'm gonna tell you also about the city I stay, Reims. Reims is the city of the coronation of the kings. It's a pretty important city for France in general. It has the cathedral where the kings were crowned, and where Joan d'Arc got Clovis to get his first coronation. So it's a really important city. And also it's a city that it's important because it stays in the Alsace region, the region where France and Germany fought a lot because of this region, because it's between them. And it also have a really big importance because it is in the region of Champagne. So it was where the Champagne were created, and a lot of the biggest houses of Champagne in the world have the base where they were created. So it is a really, really, really nice and cute city. It was a really nice experience. And Reims was also a Gallo-Roman city, so they have a lot of Roman things there, which is really different from things we have here in Brazil. And it had also a really big hole in the First War and in the Second War. So it's a really important, historically important city. And it was a really great experience to have the opportunity to live there. Now the path, how did I get there, and what have I done to get this opportunity? So since my first semester, I did some internships. My first internship was in the British Embassy here in Brazil. It was in English, and I studied English since I was a kid. But I only finished my English course when I was in university. So it took a couple of years to finish it. My second internship was in Banco do Brasil, and the third one was in Caixa Seguradora. So I did a lot of internships to try to gather the money to pay, because I know it's really, really expensive, and it helps a lot that we don't pay the fees of the universities, because our own university is for free. But even though we have to pay all the other things there, the food, the place we stay, so we need a lot of money. It's a big amount of money. And with the internships, I could get the money to pay all of this. And I worked for like 3 or 4 years, and I get enough money to pay the experience. My languages. So as I said, I studied English since I was a child, but I only finished my course of English when I was at UNB. I think it was in 2018 when I finished it. But even though I think it was a really great experience to finish it later, because I could have studied with the adult mind, and it changes a lot the experience. And also by 2019, I did the TOEFL. TOEFL is a test that you can prove that you know English. I did it for free because by the time our university could provide us this test for free, so I did it. And but the result I got was B2, that is intermediary, and it wasn't enough to get to the universities because they ask at least B2 and also C1, that is the fluent one. I also studied French when as soon as I got the information that I was accepted to study in France, I started to learning French, and I also studied French there. And I also studied Spanish here at UNB in the UNB idiomas part. That is really, really, really nice. And I also used it a lot. About keep trying. So I tried a lot of times the int. I didn't get in my first time. And it's not easy because the concurrence is insanely big. It's really, really hard. And not always we get the universities we want to. So I tried a couple of times and I never gave up. Before I tried my first time, they used to ask for extension projects at the university, like articles, the junior enterprise, the another extension project. So I did all of them, and by the time I tried for the first time, I applied. The whole process changed, so they started accepting only the ETA, the like the score of my graduation, and the quantity of credits I have done. So it wasn't easy. I didn't got the points that I was hoping to get with the extension things I did with the articles and everything. But even though I tried a couple of times and I got the opportunity to being accepted to Sciences Po in the extension projects, since it was a requisite to do it, I did a lot of extensions in the university. And I think this was one of the most important things for my experience, because without them, I wouldn't get the experience, I wouldn't live different realities. So I participated with of the junior enterprise. I did also another extension projects like SSIT, that is one that puts technology and society together. So I learned Libras, and we started to teach some deaf kids about programmation and stuff like that. And UNB itself, it gives us a lot of opportunities, and we can have everything for basically free. We just need to give our time, and as much as we invest our time, the results are insanely big. So if you want to, it's really, really, really important, and it's really nice to have this experience because we can grow as a person, we can learn a lot of things, and it's 100% something that I know that changed my mind, changed my life, and how I see things. And then I made it. I was selected to go to Sciences Po Reims, and I could not believe. I was in shock because I tried so many times, and I think that I was getting like a little bit pessimistic about it, but then when I got it, I was so happy, and it was like a insane experience. But it wasn't only flowers, and it wasn't just as simple as that. I was accepted in the middle of the pandemic. So it was really, really difficult to get the visa to go there. And Brazil by the time was considered a red country to France. So no one from Brazil could get there without a really important reason to get there. And by the time, studying wasn't considered as important reasons. So I was really, really, really worried. And I thought that maybe I wouldn't make it because we were in a different time and things were just completely crazy. And I got there. When I got there, I had to stay 10 days in quarantine because we were considered as red country, and the COVID cases here were really, really, really big, and we didn't get the vaccines as fast as the other countries. So I went there with only one dose, only my first shot. And I was really, really worried because the COVID situation and going alone to another country, it was my first time living alone. It was my first time going to Europe. So it was really, really, really scary, but it was an insanely good experience. It was crazy. I stayed 2 semesters there. I studied at Reims, at Sciences Po. And while I was there, I asked it to extend the duration of my exchange. And I spoke with Sciences Po and I spoke with UNB, and I could make it. So I stayed 2 semesters there. And I could see a lot of differences. The differences of how the university is, differences between the countries, the culture, everything is really, really different. And also the differences between people from other countries in the world and how they behave and how they think. And this changed completely my mind. First of all, talking about the course and how the classes were. When I got there, we were having only online classes, and by the time in France, the classes were already presential, so we didn't need to have the classes online. But since we were having also the COVID situation, most of the classes were hybrid, so we could have it in class or online. We could choose it and then talk with the professors about it. The classes were completely different because there we could discuss, we could talk. The professors normally they did an effort to see how each people of each country thought about the facts that we were talking. The major I got there was related to economics, so we discussed about a lot of things. And for example, how with time people saw in Brazilian soap operas that rich people had less children, and how this influenced the amount of children people were having, families were having here in Brazil with time. And having these types of experience and studying about specific things that happen in different countries in the world, and having also the opinion of people from these countries, it was really, really nice. It was really important. And with that, I could see as well the difference between a university that has one of the best educational systems in the world, and things that we could learn, or maybe that they could learn from us. And this was a really great experience. And Also, I traveled a lot because since I was there, since it was my first time in Europe, I thought that it would be a good experience also to see other countries, to experience another realities. So I went to Paris a couple of times because the city I lived was kind of like half an hour from Paris. So every time that I had the opportunity, I went to Paris. I also went to Vienna. I went to Istanbul. I went to Berlin. I went to Amsterdam, Prague, and a couple of other cities. And each city has a different story, a different food, a different culture, and seeing this type of difference in such a small part of the world, because we're from Brazil and Brazil is like continental, it's really, really big. And we can see the differences in Brazil, and we're one country. So imagine going to different countries and having different experiences. It was really, really, really nice. If you want to see some photos, you can talk to me. I can show you. I didn't put here to not take a lot of time, but if you want to, you can talk to me. I can send you, I can show you. And coming back. So I stayed there for 2 semesters. I traveled, I studied, I experienced a whole different world, a whole different type of university, a whole different type of educational system. And now I'm back here. So I'm working with the Siegrid and all the other professors on this program of internationalization of our department, because it's really, really, really important. Excuse me. It's really, I'm sorry. It's really important, and it can change completely the reality of our department and our students, and provide opportunities to students that wouldn't have this type of opportunity otherwise. The reality we are creating now. And also I can see,
if you want to have a sip of water, Isabella, no problem.
Yes, please. Sorry. So as you know, I also tested positive for COVID. And maybe I'm starting to feel some things now, but it's fine. We're good. I think my voice won't come again, but it's fine since I can speak and you can understand me. Can you understand me? That's the question.
Yes, that's fine.
Fine, perfect. And the important thing is to pass the information so you can get and you can see that it's not so hard. We have to work, and we have to work a lot. I worked a lot and I tried a lot, but it's not impossible. Not at all. Not at all. And for example, I have also some friends that were accepted and they didn't have enough money to go there, and they did some rifles and other things to try to get the money. And the thing is to show you that it's possible. You can make it, just as I did, just as a lot of different students from our department did. And if you have any question, if you want to talk about it, if you need any advice, you can talk to me. And coming back here, I want to share with you my experience. And I want to thank the university of the opportunity, because without the help of the university, I could never pay the fee of the university, because it's a really, really, really expensive fee. And having the opportunity to go there and not pay the fee, already helped a lot, even though it's expensive. And if you need something, if you want to talk to me, you can get in touch. I can share with you my email. I can share with you my Instagram account, so you can talk to me. I can help you in whatever you need. And that's it. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your attention. And if you need anything, if you want to know anything, just tell me and I'll give it to you. I'll help you.
Okay, thank you so much, Isabella, for your presentation, on your braveness on testing positive COVID and still willing to do the presentation and sharing your experiences with us. So yesterday we just inaugurated the group of ambassadors of the internationalization of our department, and Isabella is one of our ambassadors. So yeah, for sure her contact is going to be on our website soon. But if you want to share here on our chat, Isabella, feel free to do that as well. And whoever is interested might start a contact with you. Okay, so now we have I'm going to leave the questions for the end, okay, so that we can keep a little bit more on the time. And we're going to have our second presentation. So I'm very happy and pleased to introduce to you Professor Willian Falcão. And I'm going to read his bio shortly. So Professor Willian Falcão is an assistant professor at the John Molson School of Business of Concordia University in Montreal, Canada. He's original from Brasília, Brazil, where he completed a bachelor's degree in psychology at the University of Brasília, so our alumni. In 2007, he moved to Montreal to pursue his graduate studies in sport psychology at McGill University. After completing his master's and doctorate degrees, he worked as a postdoctoral fellow at the University of Laval and HEC Montreal, migrating to field sport management. Dr. Falcão's work focuses on strategy and evaluation of community sport programs, with particular emphasis on those that aim to promote psychosocial development through sport. He continuously works with community sport organizations in underserved communities in Montreal and other cities around the world. So please, Dr. Willian Falcão, the stage is yours, and thank you so much on the behalf of our department to share your time and experience with us. And I'm so happy that you have studied at UNB in the past. Oh, I think you need to unmute your mic.
That's important. Well, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the invitation to talk to you guys today. Isabella, félicitations pour votre présentation. Je ne savais pas que tu étudiais en français. On a cette lien entre nous deux ici au Québec. On parle plusieurs français. Well, thank you for the bio. The bio talks a little bit about my work, and I think it would be more interesting for you guys to hear a little bit about my path and what brought me from the time where I was sitting in the same chairs as you guys are right now to where I am today. I know that some of you, possibly many of you, are interested in pursuing international careers. And I'm going to share a little bit about my path and what brought me here, and try to highlight some things that I thought were most important in making that happen. Unfortunately, I was not as dedicated and diligent as Isabella, that had a beautiful PowerPoint. So I'm just going to really have a conversation with you, tell my story, and hopefully we can have a dialogue. I know we have questions in the end, but maybe I'll pose some questions for you during the presentation. And if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand and interrupt me. So, as explained in the bio, I'm currently an assistant professor in business school at a university here in Montreal. We're in Quebec, Canada. And I'm originally from Brasília. I grew up there, did my secondary school there, and I studied psychology at UNB. One of the first step that I took that got me where I'm at today was around my third or fourth year of university, and psychology is a 5-year program. I was, to be completely honest with you, tired of studying, tired of school, and I wanted a break. I had gone from high school to the cursinho to eventually starting UNB, doing 3 semesters a year because of the professor strikes. It was typical. I'm sure you're used to this experience yourselves. And I spoke to my parents about taking a year off or a semester off and working and just taking some time off of school. And my father freaked out. He was so worried that if I stopped, I would never come back to school. I would not finish my degree. So he suggested, why don't you do an exchange program? And in my mind, exchange programs were for high school students. I had done an exchange program to the United States in high school, and I didn't realize that there were exchange opportunities for students in university as well. So randomly one day I was walking down the hallway, and coincidentally it was around that time, there was a sign, do you want to go study in Canada? And I figured, well, if it's English, it's fine because I speak English. I did not speak French at the time. And I looked into it and found about the international office at UNB, and was able to start pursuing the steps to get the exchange happen. I'm not going to talk too much about that. I think Isabella did a really good job of explaining it. I think my message here, which highlights a little bit of what Isabella described, it is a challenging process. It is not easy. It is highly competitive. There are a lot of demands, bureaucratic demands with regards to documents, proof of language, tests, and whatnot. So it is a challenging process to go through. And what I always told myself is just to keep the eye on the prize. I never focused too much on the turbulent time that I was going through and the present. And I always try to focus on what I was aiming to achieve in the future. So if someone said, you need to prove you speak English, I just figure out a way of doing it. I reached out to multiple resources. I remember going to the language department at UNB asking if a professor could give me an evaluation because the TOEFL was going to take too long, or other challenges. Ultimately, my advice to you is figure out what you want to get, understand what are the challenges you're going to have to overcome, and look for the resources that are available to you. Maybe it's a little bit of a stoic position, but try not to get emotionally involved and don't let it get to you, because it can be quite overwhelming, to be quite honest. And the other thing that I also think Isabella addressed in her talk that I think is very important is, as UNB students, and in my case, an alumni, we have a number of resources that are available to us. And you should make use of those resources as much as possible. Isabella mentioned being able to take the TOEFL for free. I didn't have that, but that would have helped a lot. Being able to do the exchange program like I did and come to Canada for free, because essentially is an exchange of students. A student that was studying here and paying about $30,000 to $40,000 a year went to study in UNB for a semester. And I went to this school here that costs $40,000 a year to study for free. So these resources that we have available for us in Brazil with high quality public education are, I'm not going to say priceless because there is a price to it, but they're very valuable. And oftentimes we come and go through our undergraduate degree without realizing how valuable these resources are. Again, for example, only in my 4th year, I found out that there was an international office that would allow me to do these exchanges. Why? So this is my advice, and it ties a little bit with what Isabella did. So I wanted to take the time to do that. Tamiris, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about my story, and I'm going to address your question on why did I choose to be a professor in Canada. So I didn't choose to be a professor in Canada. I came to Canada, actually, it's a good leeway to what I want to say next. I didn't choose to be a professor in Canada. I took on the opportunities that were given to me. I was looking for an opportunity to go to have an exchange, and I was walking through a poster that said, "Do you want to go study in Canada?" If that poster said, "You want to go study in England," I probably would have gone to England, right? So the opportunity presented itself, and I tackled that opportunity, and I was able to come here, as I explained, through the exchange program, and that was the first step to do a master's degree here. And I went to McGill University, which is a very prestigious university around the world. I studied sports psychology, which was something I was passionate about. And I did my master's and my PhD at McGill University. Sorry, I skipped a very important step there. So I came for an exchange program. So that exchange program was in my undergraduate degree. I skipped that step. I came here for 9 months for the exchange, as I said. I was still a student at UNB, so I had to go back to UNB to graduate. But during my time here at McGill, I took courses, and essentially I could take any course in any department that I wanted. I was in psychology, so I took many courses there, but I also took courses in sports psychology, which was something I was very interested in. And that was the second intelligent, good thing that I did. And this is what I want to tell you guys about. Because as I was taking the sports psychology course, which is something that I wanted to pursue, I met the professor of that class. And during the class, he made an announcement that they were looking for volunteers for a research project where they wanted research assistants. So people that could help with the research data collection and whatnot. And because I knew I wanted to work in sports psychology, I immediately volunteered, and I became a volunteer research assistant at the sports psychology lab. They accepted me, and once again, that was an opportunity for me to showcase my skills and build relationships. And this is the other important thing that I did. And once again, Tamir, to your question, it was just a matter of me knowing what I wanted and then finding the opportunities that were available to me at the time. And what was very important in this, and I've come to realize how important that step was many, many, many years later, is one of the important messages that I want you guys to understand from this, is the importance of building relationships. By having the opportunity to work as a volunteer research assistant, I was able to showcase my work ethic, the quality of my work to the professor, and build a relationship with his graduate students that obviously clearly talked about me to the professor. Later on, I had to go back to Brazil to graduate because, as I said, I was still a student at UNB. It was just an exchange program. When I came back to Brazil, I tried to graduate as fast as possible because I didn't want the professor to forget who I was. I remember having that feeling, I need to finish this as quick as possible because if I wait 2 years, he'll probably forget who I am. So I did something absolutely insane. I can't remember the exact number, but I did the equivalent of 4 semesters in 2. I was taking 6 or 7 courses because in the last year of UNB, I don't know if it's still like that, but you didn't have a limited amount of credits that you can take if you were in your last year. So I took a ridiculous amount of credits and I graduated and I applied to my master's program. I got in and I did my master's and PhD. So I came to learn a lot of the selection process for these master's programs. And my professor, my program, the lab and the professor that I work with, every year he receives about 50 to 60 applications to study with him. And he chooses 3 people. So it is highly competitive, as I've mentioned a couple of times. And what made the difference here was not that I was the best 3. I was not the top 3rd student. By all means, I was not. I did not have the top GPA, what we call IRA in UNB. I did not have the best grades. I did not have the best English. I did not have the best research experience. By far, I was not the top 3 candidate, but he still chose me. Why? And that's what I learned later on, and this is what I want you to understand. He knew who I was. And that's what I've come to realize how important it is. We have, at least I had this impression that in North America or in other countries, the politics of jobs, the who you know, and how to build, the importance of building friendships was not as important. And I thought that through the quality of my work, I would be able to achieve success. And that is not true. The bottom line, and this is what I learned here, is that everyone here is very good at what they do. The culture in North America in particular, where I live, people are over specialized in everything, and they appreciate that. The culture in Brazil, where I grew up, we are more generalists, where we know a little bit about a lot of things. We may know a lot about our field, but we are still very well informed of things that are related to our field, okay? This is not necessarily very well seen here, but ultimately, when it comes to the work market here, it is highly competitive. And the difference between the top 5 or top 10% in quality is not the quality of the work itself, but the ability to work with others, the recommendations that you have, who you know, and how you build these relationships. Yes, it is, of course, there are people who are not good at what they do. There are people that are great. But when you have 10 candidates in front of you and they are all great, the difference will come to a more friendship-based interaction. And this is where, and this is the main message that I want to get across for you guys today, is the importance of building relationships. What allowed me to transform my exchange experience into my master's and my PhD was not just the quality of my work, but my ability to make friends and build relationships. Once I became known during my exchange program, I was able to pursue that opportunity. I went to my exchange program with another 6 students, and we were all friends. And I was the only one who was able to transform that into a master's degree, to go back and study here and live here for 10 years, right? After my PhD, I did 2 postdoctoral fellowships at 2 different universities. And once again, those opportunities came from building relationships at conferences and talking to people, presenting my work, but not just talking about work, being able to sit down and have a drink with people and talk about common interests. In our case, it was always sport because we were in the sport industry and sport science. But being able to communicate with people and build these relationships is very important. So Tamiris, I didn't choose to be a professor in Canada. It's something that the opportunities drove me here. I wanted to take a break from UNB, and the opportunity showed that it came to Canada. I wanted to study sports psychology, and there was an opportunity to volunteer as a research assistant. I wanted to come back and study abroad, and I had that relationship with a professor in Canada. I lived here. I did all my graduate studies here. I applied to universities all over the world, and I received some offers to go to different countries, but I received an offer to stay in Canada, and considering that my family is here, my children are here, I decided to stay. So it wasn't so much intentional as I want to go to Canada, I want to do this. It was more broad. And what are the needs and goals that I have for myself? And what are the resources and opportunities that are available to me to achieve that? Thinking that way helped me overcome a lot of the challenges that Isabella mentioned in her first presentation, because I reiterate what she said. It is very challenging. The amount of paperwork you have to go through to get student visas, to get to prove your eligibility from a Brazilian university to a North American university or an European university is extensive. But if you keep your eye on the prize, if you know why you are doing it, if you know what you're trying to achieve from that, it just becomes another thing that you need to get done, and you find a way of doing it. Recently, in a similar talk to other students from a university here in Quebec, they asked us how to build relationships. And a colleague of mine said something that I felt was very interesting. And it's something that I've advocated for in every presentation that I give. We oftentimes talk about relationships in terms of networking. I got a network. I'm going to go network. And network is a very bad way of looking at things. Network is very dry. Network is very business sounding. Network is very, it seems like you're trying to meet someone to get something out of them. And it's almost approaching someone with, what is it that I can get from you? And that is not a good way of building relationships. Relationships should be mutual. Relationships should be collaborative. Relationships should be built in a way that goes beyond the professional realm. And hearing my friend, he's Canadian, saying that, it really made me think a lot about my history, about the mistakes that I made in the past and the things that I did right in the past. And I feel that oftentimes I lost a lot of opportunities and professional opportunities, probably because I was networking, because I approached human relations as an exchange of information or favors, as a currency exchange or a negotiation. And the best opportunities that came my way were based on relationship building, building friendships. When I was a volunteer research assistant, that was an important step to get me where I am today. I wasn't building a network with the graduate student who I was working with. I was building a friendship with her. She invited me for dinner at her place. I met her boyfriend because the way where we were collecting data was very far and I didn't have a car. So I had to take a train for 40 minutes and she had a car, but I never asked her for a ride. And then when she was there, she was like, well, how are you coming back? I'm like, well, I'm taking the train another 40 minutes. She's like, no, have dinner with us. And like that, I started building a friendship with her. And I'm sure that that influenced her opinion about me, which influenced what she told her supervisor, who became my future supervisor, about me. So I started seeing this difference between networking and building relationships. And this is what I recommend you do. If you're interested in building an international career, don't think about the career itself. Don't think about networking. Think about getting known and building relationships, making friends abroad. Conferences are an outstanding opportunity to do that, because as much as people want to present the work and talk about work, at 5 o'clock, once the conference is over, everyone wants to go out for a drink. And that's where the conference really happens. Going to presentations is great. Don't get me wrong. It's great to know what people are doing, but people don't build collaborations to write papers, to write book chapters while they're in the sessions presenting. They build those things over a beer, or if you don't drink alcohol, another your beverage of choice, talking about their interests. And I've written a book chapter that way, where I was having a drink with the professor and I was telling her about this exam that I had to write, and I wrote about this theme and it was very interesting. And she said, hey, I just got an invitation to write a book chapter about this. Do you want to write it together? And I wrote a book chapter like that. Once over lunch, talking to a colleague, I was explaining to him my line of work, and he said, wow, that's really interesting. We should write a case study together. And I brought my sport expertise with his strategy expertise, and we wrote a case study, together that was published. So understand that the most productive time and where you're going to find most opportunities for your career development is on those social times and building relationships a lot more than networking. And while I was preparing some notes to give this talk, and I think I'm going to end with this, I came up with this little quote, this impact phrase that I liked. I may print this and put it on my office. It's what you should be looking for, and it is what worked best for me, you should be looking to create relationships and seize opportunities, and not the other way around. And I've made that mistake many times of doing the other way around, right? Create opportunities and seizing relationships. So where I force to try to get something and then try to figure out who I get to know in that place. That's not a good way of going about it. When you force these opportunities, most often than not, you're going to get rejected because you're not a quote unquote a good fit. But if you do the other way around, where you create the relationships, the right opportunities are going to come to you. If you build the relationships with the people that you admire, the people that you like, the people that you want to work with, and you build that friendship with them, the opportunities are going to start to come your way. Then you take on the opportunities that come, and you end up in Canada without really wanting or planning to be in Canada, Tamiris. You just take the opportunities and you end up here. So yeah, I guess that would be my talk. I talked a little bit about my experience. Most importantly, I want to talk to you about what I did right and wrong, and try to offer you some guidance on how you can do things the right way in order to achieve your goals if you want to build an international career. And I think the most important thing is continue to work hard. You need to be good at what you do, but that is not enough. Building relationships and creating relationships, it's very important to be able to seize the opportunities when they come to you.
Okay, great. It was amazing to hear a little bit more of your story and good advice that you're giving us. So I have some questions here of our students on, we have a WhatsApp email, a WhatsApp communication here since we are online, but I wanted to check with Professor José Márcio if anyone at the auditorium or yourself, if you want to set some question to our lecturers today.
Okay, we are open for questions. Any questions from here? Any of you? Just come here and talk to the mic here. Anyone? No? Think about one. All right. So no questions from here. Please take the ones from the chat.
Okay, so one of the questions that is, I was putting here, but I can read myself. So we have a question from several students to both of the lecturers, which is like, what was more difficult in adapting to a new culture? So I think Professor William and Isabella maybe can choose one or two things that is very challenging in terms of cultural differences.
I'm going to try to be very, I can speak to the Canadian culture or North American culture because I think the United States is similar, but I wanted to be more broad in the sense that people may be going to different countries. I think the most difficult thing is to be aware of your own ways. When we go to a different country, we can obviously see the cultural differences on what is it that the other people do. But it's difficult for us to realize what we are doing. And it took me a few years to realize that. And these are these subtle differences that influence how, once again, you build relationships, right? So in North America, for example, it is not very well seen or polite to talk about yourself. So what people here often do is that they're always asking questions to the other person about them. And what I've come to learn, and I noticed that fairly quickly, that they kept asking me questions all the time that made me a little uncomfortable, but I would still answer. But it was only years later that I realized that in Brazil, we do the other way around. Instead of asking questions about others, we share our experiences. And we feel that people who ask questions about us all the time are a little nosy. And then it's up to us how open and willing we are to share information about us. So this is how the dynamic happened in Brazil. And in North America, when you talk about you and sort of leave the door open for the other person to talk about them, you end up talking about you, and they perceive that as you being very self-centered and uninterested in them. So it's, to this day, is a little difficult for me. I always need to make myself aware that, okay, they're asking questions because they want to know, and I need to ask them questions because they're not going to talk about themselves if I don't. So that's one little example for the North American culture. But if I was to generalize that for people who may want to go to different places in the world, is not try to be aware of how you are doing things. Seeing what other people are doing is easy. Try to look within and see how you are behaving.
Okay, that's interesting. I have never thought about that, but you're right. So Isabella, would you like to answer as well? Please.
Well, I completely agree with William. And one experience I had is when a week after I got back to Brazil from France, I host a friend from England, and I took her to Festa Junina. And then she asked me why we did this type of celebration, and why did we dance and we eat the things we eat and listen to the songs we eat. And it's funny to stop to think about this stuff that we never thought before. I don't know if you ever did, but before she asked me, I never thought why we listen to forró when we celebrate Festa Junina, and why most of the food we eat are based on corn and stuff like that. So it's funny to see also how our culture is and what we can get from other cultures. That is positive, that is good, that we can add to ours, because we can always learn a lot of good things and bad things when we are in a completely different environment and when we are outside our comfort zone. So yes, I agree completely.
Okay, great. And I have just maybe one last question to wrap it up, because the students are also interested in knowing how did you make that shift from being as an exchange student and then starting to work. So for Isabella, if you had any kind of how difficult it was, and if you worked in France as well. And from Professor William, I know you came later to do your master's, but during exchange as undergraduate, if you, besides research, if you tried to work, and how difficult or easy it was to kind of join, taking the opportunity that once you are in another country to also make some money there and interact in as a professional.
You want me to go first, or Isabella?
Oh yes, we can follow the same order, Professor Willian and then Isabella.
So I think it was a very humbling experience, and I'll tell you guys a little bit about my experience, but I would like the time also to talk about other people's experience, because being here, I've been here for 15 years now, and I've had a lot of people, friends, and people that I've met that came to try to immigrate here and left every 6 months. And I think the work experience here is a very humbling experience. It's very challenging. It is very difficult. Like everything, you are going to start from scratch, from square one, and you're going to have to build it from the start. And that is very challenging. There's going to be limits, there's going to be barriers, and you just need to figure a way around them. You need to keep your eyes on the prize. You need to know where you want to get, and you just need to find a way of making it happen. I don't know, it depends on what country you go to. And to be honest with you, I don't even know how Canada works anymore. But at the time where I was here, my student visa only allowed me to work in the university. So I had to find jobs in the university. I spoke to my supervisor. I asked him, I need a job, but I can't work outside of the school. I was going to look for jobs in the library or wherever it was. And he said, no, wait, I have an idea with you. I know the manager of the fitness center. It's the gym where people work out, right? So he knew the manager of the gym, and I was in sports studies. So we had that sport connection, and it was one phone call. My supervisor called him. I have a graduate student from Brazil. He needs a job. Do you have a position in the fitness center? And that's how I got the job. Once again, the importance of building relationships. If I had applied, I would have probably been 1 out of 50. I don't know if I would have been chosen or not. With one phone call, I got the job. I work as a receptionist at the gym. I worked as a janitor at the gym. I was cleaning the machines after hours. I opened the gym at 6 in the morning sometimes. I closed the gym at 11:30 at night other times, and then had to do the cleaning. It was a very humbling experience, but I kept my eyes on the prize. I did what I had to do. Different countries are gonna have different legal demands or limitations for how and where you can work. I've had friends or people that I knew that came here that wanted to immigrate here. I can think of one particular example of someone who studied business at CEUB, and he graduated and he came here and he was looking for a job as a manager. Don't. He was here for 3 or 6 months telling me he couldn't find a job. Like, what do you mean? Give me your CV. There's an opening to be a barista, serve coffee in the coffee place right next to my house. I'll drop your CV there. No, no, no. I want a manager's position. You're not going to get one. Understand, know who you are, and never lose track of who you are, but understand how other people see you. I came from one of the best universities in Brazil. No one in, no, I'm going to say in Canada, that's exaggerating, but no one in my department or my building knew what that meant. And if I said it's one of the best schools in Brazil, Brazil is not very well known for having high academic standards. So very quickly, I realized that the way that I perceived myself or who I knew I was not who people saw me as. So I had to prove myself all over again. I had to prove that I was good, and I had to show it. When you move to a different country, you're starting from scratch. So all your social relationships, your family relationships, your degrees, everything means very little to nothing. So it's a very humbling experience. It's challenging. And once again, keep your eyes on the prize, find the resources that are available to you, and take on the opportunities that are given. I never shied away from being a janitor, and that got me through 2 or 3 years of my master's degree until I got a research grant and I was able to support myself.
Okay, great, thank you. Isabella, please.
So I can tell about France. While I was there, the visa allowed us to work as well. But we have a limit of time that we can work during the week. And I tried to get an internship when I was there. But having an internship in my major was really hard because there they cannot work and do the internship and study at the same time as we do here in Brazil. So if you do an internship, you only do the internship for 7 hours a day and you don't go to university. And for me, the most important thing besides the work was having the opportunity to study at Janspo. So first, it was hard to get. And second, I thought that maybe it was better to put my focus on the university since I could not do both. But we can work on other things. So I applied to be a babysitting, to babysit some kids and teach them English. I also applied to work in restaurants and stuff like that. but the internship itself, I didn't got because the way it works there, it's completely different from the way it works here. And when I told them that in Brazil, I used to do the internship of 6 hours per day plus the classes, they were completely shocked because it's really a lot of hours that was spent per day doing both. But like besides this type of work, like babysitting and helping with other stuff, the government in France, they give a lot of privilege for us as international students. So the government helped me to pay my accommodation. The government helped me to get some food if I needed. The government really help if we need, because they know how hard it is, and as students that cannot study and work at the same time, because it's hard to manage the useful time we have. The government helps a lot there, so it wasn't the hardest thing for me in my experience.
Great. Thank you, Isabella. Great to see the differences. So we are just about to finish our session. I know Professor William has a very tight time right now, and we have one raised hand. So just to check, who is that? Is José Márcio who wants to set a question? And William, do you need to leave right now?
I can answer one more question.
Okay, so let's have this last question.
A quick question, quick answer. Do you feel you were academically prepared for the challenge in Canada and France? Is UNB, both our UNB students were academically prepared for the challenges? That's the question.
So my experience was quite interesting because I did not feel very prepared for the undergraduate degree at McGill. The way that undergraduate degree education in North America is very different from Brazil. Here, the way they teach it is very much about memorizing it, just retaining information and repeating information. The classrooms for the first year students, for the first 2 years, I would say, you have about between 200 and 400 students in each classroom. You don't write papers, you don't have discussions in class. It's all multiple choice exams, and the professor walks in, talks for an hour, 15 minutes, and leaves. Any question you have, you need to talk to the teacher assistants. There is very little relationship. So during my exchange program, it was quite difficult for me because I was not trained to learn that way. I come from UNB, which is a liberal college. We discuss things, we discuss topics, we write papers. So the exchange experience for me was difficult. I had to work really hard to learn to memorize things. And even then, to be honest with you, I didn't do very well. But once I got to the master's degree, the graduate level, then it was easy. So when while my colleagues had learned to read and memorize, I had learned to think critically about things. So from the first year of my master's, when a professor in a master's class asked, okay, what do you think about this? What are your thoughts? A lot of my friends were completely lost because they had not been taught to think critically. And I feel that our undergraduate or UNB's undergraduate degree prepares students much better for the graduate level to think critically and obviously to the work market, well, to life, because life is not a multiple choice exam. So, the undergraduate experience there was quite difficult, and the graduate experience, I felt UNB prepared me really, really, really well.
Great, good to hear. Isabella, you want to share some on that as well?
My experience, it was really easy because normally in Brazil, we follow the French system of education. So when we arrived there, they give us a course of French methods because it is pretty different from United States and North America in general. But since we follow this type of education since we're kids, it was pretty easy to adapt and to learn things. So for me, it was pretty much the same that is here, but the classes had way less students, so it was more like something more particular and personal. But yeah, it was pretty much the same. The thing that I thought that was strange is because there the grades are until 20, and professors never give 20 to anyone. And for me to see the difference in what each note represents there, it's completely different from what each note represents here, and it's not proportional. So this was something I had some struggle with, but the type of the lectures, how it was administrated, is pretty much similar to here.
Okay, it was great to know as well. Well, unfortunately, we need to finish the session. It is so interesting to hear your experiences and thoughts on and reflections on the kind of experience you had there. So, Professor William, thank you so much for being here with us. I know your time is really tight, but it was great, and we hope still to see you here or there at some point soon. So thank you so much. Congratulations for your career and your and the opportunities you have built for yourself as well in Canada. We know it's not easy. Isabella as well, thank you so much for sharing it with us. I hope the students really try to connect to you and get some advice on the opportunities and how to participate at the INCH opportunities. Thank you both for being here with us and sharing all that. If José Márcio wants to say any final words, but just want to thank you immensely for enriching us with your visions. Thank you.
In the name of faculty, I would like to thank you both. A brilliant presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a pleasure. I'm hoping to get an invitation to be that in person next time.
Let's organize.
Included, of course.
Hopefully soon, William.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye. Have a good afternoon.
Okay, I will finish here. Thank you. Bye-bye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the audience as well. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Muito obrigado, muito obrigado.